Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Thursday night in-depth ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'd like to start in the tropics this evening, and the first thing we're going to talk about here is Tropical Storm Fiona. Now, right here is the main circulation of this storm. I'm kind of giving you this broader view so you can see kind of the things that Fiona is struggling against. So the main circulation is right under the cursor, and as you see here, the main circulation throughout the day today has been decoupled from the deepest convection, which is what we see over here on this side. This is usually a product of higher wind shear. That's what typically happens in a high wind shear environment, is that we end up decoupling the circulation from the main convection. There's other reasons why this can happen, but it's one of the reasons why Fiona has really struggled to continue to develop here as of late. Now, our big questions about Fiona is once it approaches the Lesser Antilles, where does the track eventually take it? I'm going to take you straight to the National Hurricane Center's evening update here, just to kind of show you what they're thinking at this point. So they're keeping it as a tropical storm, taking it over the northern Lesser Antilles. This includes, again, Antigua and Barbuda, which are at the northern tip here of the Lesser Antilles, but then over Puerto Rico and possibly over the island of Hispaniola. Now, out over the next 5 days, the tropical system could be approaching like the Virgin Islands and getting up into the Bahamas. And this is, I think, where our biggest questions are going to be coming into play, because it's going to be the timing of a ridge over the Midwest and a trough that'll sneak through the northern tier of the United States and its associated front that I think we're going to have our biggest discussion about going forward. It's the timing of that that'll either tell us whether or not Fiona survives and makes its way here, or if it makes a hard turn to the north. And the models at this point are pretty split on this eventual path. Now remember, this is, well past this weekend into next week that we're talking about this occurring. So this is the latest from the European model. And to be honest with you, even at 5 days, look at the spread in the ensemble members. That's 120 hours. It's everywhere from here in the Caribbean or making a hard turn toward Bermuda at that point. So the ensemble spread is incredibly large. By the way, how they make the spread on this graphic is they use historical errors. So they narrow down a track, the forecasters do, and then the size of this cone is based on the historical track error, in other words, their performance over the last, I don't know how many years they included, I'll have to go look that up, but that's what gives you the spread in that cone. This is actually individual model runs. There's 51 of them in the European, and now we start to see that some of those ensemble runs take this possibly over Florida. The main one that's outlined here is the operational run, the one that was released this afternoon, the 12Z run, and that's where it takes it. Now look at the difference, excuse me, between the European ensemble and the GFS. The GFS is a 31-member ensemble, and the big difference is, most of the ensemble members want to make a pretty hard turn out to open ocean. I think a lot of this has to do with the timing of a front that's going to be advancing here around the 23rd, I think is about the time frame we're looking at. I'll narrow that down in a moment. But they still do have some of their ensemble members making it across Cuba. So we've got to watch this. That's the main ideas tonight I want to share with you. We're going to continue to watch this system early tomorrow morning to see what it looks like once it makes it over the northern Lesser Antilles. This is not the only tropical system that's going to be interacting with the mid-latitudes. We've been watching all week what was happening with this typhoon. I haven't really mentioned in my reports yet because I was waiting to see where the remnants of this once quite strong typhoon that's moved its way to the north, how it interacts with that trough we've been discussing that slowed down over Alaska. If you watch my morning report, you know what I was talking about there. It's changed everything about the forecast for the rainfall over the next 7 days. So this low is going to produce very strong winds as it goes toward Alaska. And what I think it's going to help do is kind of decouple a shortwave that's going to sneak its way off of the California coast here and allow these two features to kind of completely move independently of one another. And I want to show you how important all that is to the forecast. By the way, we do have another typhoon that's following this. We're going to keep a close eye on that one as well. So this is where we have to spend some time. This is the upper levels of the atmosphere. And what you notice right over here, this was at the model initialization where the upper level circulation is around that remnant typhoon. Okay, so as we play forward, this is going through Thursday into Friday. The first thing, which is a continuation of our discussion since Tuesday, is how this trough, which was once a part of that tropical system, and the lead wave, which then dives down here, kind of almost breaking over this larger ridge in the Gulf of Alaska. This lead wave comes off the coast of California, and it has all week long increased the rainfall threat for the northern half of California, southern Oregon, into Nevada. I'll show you that in a few moments. While that's all occurring this weekend, a very sizable ridge opens up in the midsection of the country, such that our temperatures right in the midsection of the country going into early next week, coming out of Sunday into Monday, we're talking upper upper 90s getting into Kansas and Nebraska. Now at this point, do you see how this wave and this one are decoupled? They're two separate pieces, okay? The one's flowing around like this and cut off. The other one's part of the jet stream pattern still. So what we see is they move separate from one another. And by next Wednesday, this trough, which lately has been getting a little more shallow, not as deep as it was earlier, has separated itself from the one by midweek next week that moves over California. This large ridge, though, is going to be important to watch. And here's what we need to see. This is where the current operational European puts Fiona. All right. And what happens is as we go from Wednesday into Thursday, this ridge stays put. So the flow is coming around it like this. There is a front sliding through here as well behind this trough. And the European keeps the front a bit farther to the north and advances it quickly out to open ocean, giving time for Fiona to get pulled in by the synoptic scale winds coming around this ridge. So if you watch, the European model sweeps the front through farther to the north, Fiona sneaks in underneath, and gets pulled by the ridge right toward Florida. Now this is an operational run. We are out here 216 hours. This is just one simulation. It's this one. Whoops, it's this one right here. So understand that there's a lot of other possibilities. If the front is better timed, it yanks it out to open ocean. If it's really late, then Fiona could make its way into the Caribbean and eventually into the Gulf. So those are all the kind of pieces we're keeping a close eye on. So what this means is, if we look strictly at the European model, all right, this is rainfall in the near term. This is where Fiona comes through. This is where that cutoff low moves into Northern California and brings some of its rainfall into this whole region. This is where the storms are ongoing now. We have the storms moving across the Midwest, but then you saw two systems that really bring a lot of rainfall in through here. If you're in this area, it's relatively dry for the next 7+ days, and a lot of harvest progress and some really hot temperatures coming in through here. So with all of that, let's kind of go have a look at kind of how this is all going to shake down just a couple of different ways. First, this is the probability of getting at least an inch of rainfall in the next 10 days. So we see this large open area that's going to be dry. The heaviest rains coming out of Minnesota right over Lake Superior into southern Ontario. You can also see the rains that are coming through the Intermountain West, and then this is with that cutoff low hitting California. This is there's a 50 to 80% chance that some places in California maybe get an inch of rain out of that cutoff low. Now, before I show you the different models, I want to first show you this. Interestingly enough, right now in the latest runs, and by the way, this is provided by Ryan Maui, fantastic meteorologist, outstanding data scientist as well. Just kind of shows you the skill score. Currently, the GFS has got the higher skill score at this moment. So it's doing better than the European model is, although historically the European has done better. So we need to make sure we take a look at both models. Before I go in to show you both models, I did want to bring up one other thing. I was going to take you quickly to my website, and I'd like to show you that as these storms are coming through. So we were watching this area tonight right in through here, but tomorrow, severe weather threat possibly in parts of Nebraska. So I think before I get into the multi-model analysis, let's come back here and take a look at the 18Z high-res NAM. There we go. Okay, so we'll start here first. As we play this forward, there's all the scattered convection we watched all afternoon in parts of the plains, and here's the storms building this evening while I'm recording. So this is all going on right now as I'm getting this recorded for you. So we see those storms breaking up, but then the next wave is still here while the heavier rains sit on this front that's north of Minnesota getting over Lake Superior. So we have another chance tomorrow. See that this is Friday afternoon and evening. That second wave comes out there, and some of these could produce some strong straight line winds, and there's even the possibility of some hail. That's why the National Weather Service has identified this area as having some risk. Throughout this whole time period, a lot of storms down in Florida as well, and we see that going through Saturday into Saturday evening, we have just a few more rounds for the potential for some storms in here. Now, the European picked up on that, and that's why you saw a lot of the scattered nature to the storms in this area, but the much wetter conditions were around the periphery. So now let's come back to that multi-model analysis. So just as a reminder, the GFS is on the left, the European is on the right, and the GFS has been the better performer as of late. Interestingly enough, if we get past what we just saw here, let's get out there to Saturday evening. Both models actually are pretty well timed on events, except for Fiona. And let's go take a look. So Saturday getting into Sunday morning, that's when both models bring this cutoff system here through into Northern California. There's a lingering front, notice here, on Sunday morning that stretches from New England across parts of Ontario, then gets in here into the eastern Great Lakes, down toward Iowa. It's in both models. And then as we play forward through Sunday afternoon and evening, we're going to watch for some storms to pop on that front. But look at the rains coming in here in both models into California, Northern California. So it's just amazing to think that a week ago we were setting all-time records in Sacramento. Now we're cool and wet, all of that inside the same month. Now as we play out here Monday evening, getting into Tuesday morning, afternoon, and evening, you see that the GFS very quickly brings what is left of Fiona out and north. This is where it is in the European. Both of them now have that second wave producing a system in the northern Canadian prairie. The GFS is a bit faster with it. So the reason for me telling you that is if that front moves through more quickly, there will be showers and storms all along here. More rain in the Intermountain West. See, the European drags the front through later. So why this is important is that front that the GFS swipes through is going to catch whatever is out here with Fiona and just keep pushing it out to open ocean. European's a bit slower. It's all the way back here now. That's where the front is. So this is the timing difference a week from tonight, okay? And Fiona sits here over Cuba instead of being out to south of Bermuda. So the difference here is that the front grabs it, yanks it out of the way, high pressure comes in, it's sitting over Lake Erie. This same high pressure cell, which we're going to talk about again at the end of this video, is sitting here in the European. Major differences. So let's just digest that week and look at the model differences. Here is the European total precipitation forecast for the next 7 days. And this is the GFS for the same time period. Look at Fiona in the GFS versus in the European. Big differences here. So again, European, GFS, and here's the difference. So this would be wetter in the European, this would be wetter in the GFS. Notice how much wetter the European is with the second system. Why? It's slower, so it has more time to produce more rain here. It's also wetter for California as that trough drops in. But the GFS, taking the precipitation from Fiona here versus the European there, shows the major difference in those two systems. So a lot to be paying attention to here with these differences. Now, I want to quickly go over to temperatures before I show you the week 2 stuff, okay, on precip. Because what we've already seen these highs today. There's Friday, a lot of late summer warmth here. As we go into the weekend, the west is cool. Trough is there. I mean, look at these temperatures. Sacramento, 76 is a high on Saturday. Meanwhile, Saturday into Sunday, upper 90s, possibly hitting 100 on Monday right here in the plains while the trough sits over the west. Now remember, this is also the setup for that system that comes through on Tuesday. See the main front slicing through here? It's going to try to push that heat east by Wednesday. So that's that progression of that second wave that's disconnected from the trough that's going over California. Now, what I want to do with this is I want to show you what I'm watching very carefully with what's coming behind this. Now, I haven't shown you this in a while because we usually look at this a lot in winter. But this is the European ensemble looking at what we call the mean sea level pressure, but we're looking at the individual ensemble member where they're placing the lows. So see all the L's? This is where the models kind of spread out the lows. So see, that's the second system next Tuesday, Wednesday that races north. Now, what I'm concerned about is by next, really Thursday night into Friday morning, both models were trying to bring in high pressure into this area. And why we get concerned about seeing high pressure like this at the end of September is the winds will calm down, the skies will clear out, and this starts to bring in the risk of seeing some colder temperatures. Now, we're not going to use the models to predict the temperatures out this far because they won't be able to do it, but I can show you this map here. This is one, whoops, it flipped over to the 18-0. Let's go back. There we go. This one, let's take you out there, right here in the morning. This one shows us the chance of getting a low temperature on Friday morning below 40. Could it hit the southern Canadian prairie, the western plains, maybe parts of the northern plains? We need to be on the lookout for a potential, again, this is the 23rd of September, for a frost. And that could move a little farther east by Saturday. So I'm just letting you know that there's a non-zero chance for a frost. I think that's the best way to put it out here. But it'll quickly go away after that. First, I do want to show you, though, what the week 2 precipitation pattern looks like. So let's stretch that out and show you. Because at this point, the models have been very consistent with keeping above normal precipitation in the Four Corner states, drier than normal from Texas through the Midwest. All right. So that's been a very consistent picture. Oops, sorry, it went back one more run. There's the latest. It says the same thing overall with this setup. Now, could we bring in some decent rain into the hard red winter wheat belt to get some wheat planting done here? I think that's a possibility with this week 2 precipitation pattern. But I just want to remind you, looking out there, 23rd, 24th, the morning, those 2 mornings, let's just keep an eye out for the potential for a northern U.S. frost, which would be consistent with this time of year. But that colder air, how long does it stick around? So here's your 5-day sliding window. So there's the heat we're going to watch early next week. And then you see it fading as we get out there into that cooler time period. There it is. But notice it's not sustained. We bring in above normal temperatures after that, which means if we kind of dodge the risk of this frost event, the likely next time we would see a risk would be in the month of October. I think that's kind of what the models are pointing at here. Okay, we've now taken a look at all the short range. Let's dig into the long range today. First of all, whenever we see the MJO just stuck in null space, that tells us that our trade winds must still be strongly in La Niña phase. And one of the things I want to point out is, remember, we were expecting La Niña to surge again as we approached October. We're now starting to see at the end of September, look at it again, very strong trade wind activity here, and the westerly winds have returned in the models back in the Indian Ocean. So that is just another kind of resurgence of this La Niña, which over the last week and a half has really started to allow a lot of cold water with stronger trade winds here to emerge, all the way over towards South America. So La Niña will dominate the headlines for us through this fall. So the new European weeklies came out and they echo what the previous forecasts have done. And this is a very La Niña look at the end of September through the 25th of October. So that 30-day window from September 25 to October 25 continues to favor the drier conditions, better harvest weather. We could still see about a system a week coming through here, but overall the pattern is just favoring more warmth, helping some of the crop finish, especially down here in Texas. I was in Lubbock yesterday. This cotton crop, which is a little late, needs more warmth and some drier conditions to get finished out here, and we're seeing that. But a lot of harvest effort could really move quickly in this next month, given that at this point we're getting these indications. Now, is this forecast being echoed by the Climate Prediction Center? Well, we just got this released today, so let's go have a look at it. Over there on the left, you've got the monthly outlook for October. On temperatures, again, mild outlook like we just saw from the European, and also drier. They have also predicted, as the European has, possibly the early start to wetter weather in the northwest. Now that's not desired yet because of how late things went in this spring. We need more time before we bring in cooler and wetter weather to the northwest. But if we look out there at the new data for the next 3 months, it looks exactly like what I've been showing you in each briefing from the NMME, the European, and the CPC, and this is their official forecast now. So October, November, December, milder farther south, drier farther south, possibly an early start to the wet season here in the Pacific Northwest. That's been solid in the models for quite some time. What also was released today is the new IRI multi-model forecast from Columbia University. I want to show you the whole planet just so we can pick up on our last story today. So first of all, you notice same forecast as the other models with the drier conditions farther to the south. You also see what's going on down here in South America. We'll come back to that in a second. Australia continues to show wet in the models. We do see drier conditions in parts of the Middle East continue to show up, as we also see along and south of the Yangtze River. But it's this South American outlook, which we've been discussing, possibly being wetter north early and drier south. And we know that the wetter conditions to the north are critical to the quick start to planting, which kind of the date where it's open to plant is today for much of South America. So here's what we need to look at. The next 10 days from the European model, these greens represent above normal precipitation, and that's right in the heart of Mato Grosso do Sul, Bahia, getting over to Minas Gerais. These are areas that could plant quickly. We continue to see areas of drought to the south, like along the Paraná River, which is here, Rio Grande do Sul, Uruguay, and big sections of Argentina, which earlier this week we talked about, still showing a dry signal. But when I talked with growers down there, I've generally got the consensus that if you're in Mato Grosso, they're waiting on about 2 inches of rain. That 2 inches of rain will be critical for germination. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the chances for that. So this is a map that shows the probability over the next 10 days of getting at least 2 inches of rain. We see in northern Mato Grosso, over toward Rondônia, maybe over in Pará, where we could possibly get 50 to 70% chance of getting 2 inches of rainfall. So they're going to wait on this, which means we're going to be waiting later in the month before we really aggressively plant these soybeans. But the new long-range outlook continues to show that through the end of October, above normal rains, which would signal a very fast plant of the big acres we're expecting north, while there continues to be risk of drought farther to the south. And that is a very characteristic signature in South America when there's a strong La Nina. A couple of things just to point out here, though. I would like to let you know that come over to Asia, and the model went very aggressive again on being dry in southeast China. But along the Ganges River Valley, right into this part of India, a late surge in the Indian monsoon. This is going to hit a very populated area here. There's probably 300 or 400 million people that live right in here where I'm kind of tracing, with very excessive rainfall over the next month and a half. So we'll have to watch that carefully as well. One last thing we do need to discuss, and I'll be putting this in my reports in the coming days and weeks, is there is still risk that across much of Europe, let's go take a quick look at Europe for their fall harvest, that we could see a cold start to winter in the western side of Europe. And I think that's going to be very important to follow. But at least through the month of October, we do see wetter conditions during harvest over Ukraine and also the Russian wheat belt, which means this could do a quick plant for the winter wheat here if the moisture comes in, and that's good for germination. But could be difficult harvest forecast weather here given the above normal precipitation forecast. So I got a lot to keep paying attention to this weekend, but I'll get you another report soon. I appreciate the little extra time. I was getting home late on a flight tonight, but it's good to be back home and to get a good forecast in for you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.